So let's just keep talking. I'm going to make this formal in the way of I'm going to present the topic, my name, and then we'll just kind of casually go through everything and discuss things. What's that? Correct. So my name is Randy Stamm. I'm the eLearning coordinator of at Idaho State University. And we're going to look at Moodle in the past 10 years. We've been Moodle users. Michael Spall is one of the Moodle administrators, and he's here just to provide insight on some of the more technical end of things because that's not my specialty. Okay. So, as an overview, I'm going to take you back now. Time machine. You guys got to close your eyes and pretend now it's 2007. Okay? Close your eyes. And so these are some of the areas that we're going to discuss. Let's get in our time machine. Okay? Ready to go? Here we go. And what was happening in 2007? Well, I put some of the highlights here. Housing bubble. Nobody remembers that. Anybody get stuck with that problem? I did.
I bought a house right after the bubble.
I bought a house right at peak time. Yep. Fortunately, I made good money on my other house, but that's another story. Harry Potter, the Virginia Tech tragedy, yeah, obviously. This one's interesting. Hard to believe that the iPhone came out in 2007. Seems like we've had smartphones and iPhones forever. And 2007. And the Horizon Report, if you all look at that or see what's new or upcoming, this is what was happening in 2007. User-created content, social networking, mobile phones, not smartphones, mobile phones, virtual worlds. Yeah, what happened to virtual worlds anyways? And new scholarly forms of publications, blogs, yeah. Okay, so let's look at the LMS Marketplace at this point in time. Blackboard just completed the acquisition of WebCT. Everyone remember WebCT?
I got my master's on it.
Did you? Awesome. So.
Well, half on WebCT and half on YouTube.
Oh, okay. And so at that point, our contract was actually coming up. Well, it was coming up in 2008. So we were planning a couple years in advance. And so we said, well, let's look at what's out there right now. We've been a WebCT user. We started in 96, 7, when they were just beta, and we were basically helping troubleshoot a lot of things. And it used to be just one screen with a set of buttons at the bottom of it. WebCT was. And it was just crazy to think that we've gone so far with our LMSs. But so some of the things that we looked at was open source, and it was something that we thought could be possible in-house just because of the resources. And when I just say resources, it's not just technology, but the people resources like Michael, because Moodle was PHP-based and Sakai was Java, yeah. And so we had the PHP strength, and so that was one of the reasons we went through it after we did this year-long analysis and we evaluated other products. And one of our concerns, and now looking back, it's like, no kidding, that's what happened. Angel, at that point in time, everyone was going, I'm going to Angel, and yeah, well, you're part of Blackboard now, so we know what happened to that. And then I don't know if you remember this, Desire to Learn was in a patent fight with Blackboard at that point in time because Blackboard had the patent on LMSs.
And they promised not to use it against open source.
Yeah. So it was a funny time. Just seems like yesterday, but 10 years ago. So yeah, we had our final WebCT semester. We started using Moodle in the spring of 2007. And in fall 2007, we were straight Moodle ISU. This kind of gives you a good, from eLiterate, I don't know if you ever go on their blog and look, but he put up a nice graph of what's happening, well, up to 2016 here, but what happened to the LMS market throughout, and how all these other WebCT and Angel and everything else kind of all merged and go up there. And then the overlap on Moodle, which is really Moodle Rooms, and notice this Canvas starting to spread out a little bit. But and then homegrown stuff. What's that?
Blackboard looks like a polluted river.
It does. Like this was.
It's an appropriate color, isn't it?
Pure pristine water.
And so the direction we're kind of going and where we're going. And notice it looks like Moodle is kind of leveling off at a point, really. It expanded and then it just started leveling off. And when we get ahead, I want to talk a little bit about that too, because there is a reason why there's a question mark in the title of this presentation. Okay, throwback. Okay, here we are, 2007, Moodle. This is what we started with. This is the interface we were working with. This is interesting too, files. Remember when we had to upload files into Moodle and then link them? Crazy. And now we jump ahead, 2.9. I guess we could put 3 up here if we wanted to, but we'll stick with this. You know, we got badges and we got our course listings. We have our dashboard now, something new. And our courses look a little cleaner. So we've seen a lot of change, and there's been a lot of plugins. There's been a lot of what's been integrated into Moodle to make it cleaner, simpler, easier for the faculty member, easier for the student to navigate. Now I'm going to jump ahead to something that happened to us. And so fall of 2008, we had probably around 600 or 700 courses. That's really the start of real having just Moodle and not WebCT. Come fall 2009, you see what's happening here now. Those are the courses and number of courses at ISU and number of courses that have some sort of Moodle component to say. And now we're just about even coming up to 2016. It'll be interesting to see what happens this year. And it's not just because we create courses for every create Moodle courses for each course. It's not the case. They have to request it. So the faculty member have to request it, or their department requests it, and then those course shells are created. This is very interesting. This is why I wish other people were here. So LMS software pricing. This top line for Blackboard is a comparable school to ours. I won't mention names just because I was asked not to. So this is their price structure right now. It actually came down a little bit for Blackboard. They're getting a little break. Looks like they had quite a bit of break, just the wrong direction. No, so we started out and noticed that our line's a little high here. At the time, we had to address a couple issues, and that was one with quick mail, because our faculty were used to WebCT and they had to have mail inside of that environment. So we had somebody, a programmer, help us support that. So we spent, a couple $1,000s at the beginning to make that happen. Well, after that, we basically flatlined. We never have had to pay for software. And I think this in itself, one thing, if you look at it this way, and I'm being very generous with WebCT because I'm just taking into account that in a 3-year contract they did 3%, and or 5%. I'm sorry, but that probably would be overarching more. So in this sense, we're probably paying about $60,000 to $70,000 in the current date. Up here, we're paying. If you're using Blackboard, you're paying for about $160,000, $170,000, and over that brief period of time, just looking at Blackboard, we saved $1.5 million, and WebCT at its growth, we would have saved 500,000. So it's, I mean,
When you figure ISU is 14,000 FTE, so individual users of Moodle is higher, 16,000 in a semester. 160 divided by 16,000, that's how much you're paying per user for a year to use that system.
well, and here's the other thing is well, the argument sometimes is, well, yeah, but you have to have more support. Well, not really. This is our Moodle support over the years. And so compared to course usage and our support logs for just Moodle. And so it really, and obviously it's self-reporting and us reporting, and maybe some of the data is missed in here, but at most part of what we've collected, I mean, we're basically seeing the same gradual growth in our support for Moodle with the growth of our course numbers too, course usage. The other thing, which I felt was really interesting too, is that in 2007, we had 5 staff members, 6 including myself, to support the faculty. We've grown by 1 staff member, and we're supporting, from 700 to thousands of courses now. Oh, back.
Go back to the one with the servers on there.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to stop here because this is interesting too, where we started, and here we are with a single server, and we're doing our pilot. And I'll have Michael talk a little bit more about this too, but just seeing the growth over the years, and this area too is if and I'm not sure with the folks that we have in here, maybe Ryan might be interested in what we're doing with the Amazon Cloud right now with Moodle. So when I keep threatening Michael that he's going to have to stop looking at Amazon Cloud and look at the Google Cloud now.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
Whenever you get done with one big project / disaster, it has to be something better than the right?
Otherwise, why would you get up?
Exactly. What's the purpose? So go ahead and you can talk about this, Michael. I'll just let you go through the server systems that we've used over the years.
I was sent to a conference in December 2005. And then one of our one of our instructional designers also mentioned Moodle. So that winter spring of 2006, we were looking at Sakai and Moodle, and we set up Sakai on a server, and it never did work the best, and that's related to Java and Tomcat and the difficulty of just getting that going. But I got Moodle going in a really relatively short amount of time, like less than a day, on a single server under the desk computer. And we ran a pilot with 50 courses at 50 courses, and that got bumped up to 100 courses at one point, right? Something like that.
We expanded the pilot into another semester.
Yeah. And then, a lot of times, like the delay, like the reasons things stayed in a pilot longer was because of institutional change. It's hard to get faculty to make change without providing them, we needed to provide them support. So some of us was gearing up and ramping up and being comfortable supporting them, but also communicating change without upsetting people and people getting too excited because you're pulling the rug out from under them. So often,
fortunately, it was a good time because we were invested, but we weren't really that invested.
Because we were running like 300 courses a semester in WebCT, which was, our astronomical growth from Moodle. Like even beginning of Moodle, we were already double what we were doing in WebCT, and it constantly surprised us. And kind of made us worried sometimes about our infrastructure, whether we could handle this growth.
Right.
And it
Well, and you see the growth here too. I mean, what we
we went from a single server under the desk to two running on two Sunfire V440 servers, and those are, we got those used from the state. So it's almost like like running it on your junker. I don't want to besmirch V440s, but they weren't the latest and greatest. And we ran fine then, but we were running into limitations of running on Sun Solaris.
Well, and the kind of the background too, what I talked earlier about, well, did we have the resources? Again, the resources in our IT shop at the time, they were a Sun Solaris shop. So that's why it was used, those Sun servers were used. Not because we wanted to.
Mm-hmm. What would you say is the general cost trajectory throughout this process?
For hardware?
2006 to 2016 on the hardware side.
It was very similar because when we were running the Sunfire 4600s, they were about 12,500 a piece, and these were very big beefy machines. I made sure they could handle a huge load. But buying the V440s were even used. We didn't pay that much because they were used and from the state. They were state surplus. But if we had bought those, so the cost was the same. It's because the fact that you're getting more, as time goes by, you're able to get more with your buck. So our actual hardware costs were almost always the same. It was like when we would replace hardware, I got the same amount of money. I just tried to get the best, working with the IT folks, the best machines for that amount of dollar.
Well, and what's not listed here too is the whole SAN.
SAN. And that's
And
a
the
big
backup process.
That's a big cost there too.
So how does running the servers physically, if it's relatively fixed cost, it looks like every couple of years you're getting a new server and capabilities probably go a little bit faster. What do you pay for AWS or the Amazon cloud configuration over that period of time?
So we're spending, I think a little over $30,000. We were hoping it would be $30,000 a year. We're getting a little above that to handle load and everything. But when you figure in the SAN and the fact that like we were using Dell EqualLogic boxes and they went out of date so fast that and the storage costs, that our costs machine wise is not that much different being in the cloud if you really add up everything, because the one change, so we have V440s and there were kind of issues, plus they were getting old and finally out of warranty. They wouldn't be supported anymore. We'd have to go to third-party support. So that's the other thing, is you got to figure maintenance always in. So I got some Sunfire 4600s, and then we bought like 5 years of support, and we were using a mix match. And then limitations on the V440s for the database, because what we found was, so here it looked like the bottleneck was on the web server. But once we got a bigger web server, it was able to shove more stuff down to the database, and we realized the database was not blocking. So then we were equally beefy on both sides. And these were the Solaris chip based. These were in Intel chip based, so we could have run Linux on them. We never did. Again, that had to do with IT decisions, and I mean, people have limited amount of time, and so we were more of a Solaris shop, though we did run some Red Hat. So when we replaced those, we went to Dell R710s, and we were Linux from the get-go, and that was a lot easier. And the other change is, back with WebCT, no one in the ITRC really supported the machines. We had a math faculty member that kind of wrote some of the code to do some integrations.
No, we had some help, but just
2006.
But it was mostly that was mostly our IT folks running everything. And now, as we graduated down here, more and more it was Ann and I running things on the computers. So they did the initial stock here, and now, so when you figure that $30,000 cost, we've offloaded all IT support onto AWS and the ITRC. So there are some cost savings to ISU, freeing up not being so mentally taxing and time taxing
So
to
the
our
budget-
central IT.
The budget going out the door is about the same, but you guys have more time to do other stuff because Amazon is covering.
Correct.
And then
Yeah, there's a
and then
failover, there's the,
Right. So before, we only had one database, and there's no one at ISU probably that has the time to invest into coming up with a very solid and reliable, and something that you've tested 100 times to know that it really works for database failover, which is a really hard problem. And I mean, I don't have that amount of time. I'm not a DB database server set up. I mean, I've done it and I've optimized things, but now they're taking care of that one last hurdle that we probably would have never gotten to
Well,
without them.
and talk about, even our latest run-in with problems and how
Yeah,
fast they've been addressed, to say.
Yeah. So so we were very happy on these, and in fact, I would be happy to stay here. We don't have some of the redundancy here and the backup. That's another thing, is we're very sure of disaster recovery in this sense, because we're in multiple data centers separated by 50 to 100 miles, as opposed to everything being in Pocatello, one earthquake away from.
Yep, being all gone.
Where
Now they're in a billion
Where-
bunkers.
Well, right. Where, I mean, granted, I suppose if there's enough flooding in Oregon. But so I was very happy with the performance here. And there are some trade-offs. Once you get multiple web servers, it does get a little more complex. You have to rely on your file server and the Moodle cache, and there's some things that, as a community, we could do to improve the Moodle universal cache on multiple web servers.
I know for a fact that multiple providers, I don't know about Blackboard in particular, but I know that Nami and Moodle both use AWS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
for their servers.
so you see, when you're investigating Moodle on AWS, you see Munami and you see Bitnami, which I don't know if Munami kind of is a combination of like Bitnami, but there's turnkey Moodle where you can kind of just pay for the servers and just spin up and you have Moodle running. I think this type of situation at our level, cost-wise, we're probably able to do more than the kind of thing that they set up, because they're setting up kind of on a web server, but yeah, depending on your usage, you could easily just use a Munami setup on AWS.
I found that they had a bunch of extra stuff to track what you're doing, and it's what you do.
Yeah.
Unnecessary additional things, and they don't optimize the servers quite.
Right, which I've spent a lot of time, figuring that stuff out. But so that jump to AWS, it's a little bit green apple, red apple. I wouldn't say apple and oranges, but it's enough different that cost is not 100%, because before we had one database, we essentially have two databases. So if anything, our costs should have gone up, because we actually have more for failover and all kinds of stuff.
Thank you, Michael. So, looking to the future now, what does our LMS look like in the future? And again, from the Horizon report, I pulled up eLearning, which is just mobile learning. How was that going to integrate or be part of this whole learning management system? Adaptive learning technologies, and Internet of Things. Have you ever heard that term? Okay. So, like your smart homes and all the integration with the physical environment. So it's really, it's something to think about. How is that going to be integrated with our learning management system? And then, what is this next generation LMS? What is it going to look like? How do we envision it? And, a lot of the discussions and articles that talk about it, this is like, we need to simplify it. We need to make it easy for the learner. We need to, it needs to be at low cost and so on. It's like, isn't that what we're doing with Moodle already?
I think people get it backwards because Moodle is, like you said, you said flexible, and that's what's great about Moodle, is that it's flexible, but on the learning side, it's a steeper learning curve, because that flexibility means
Right.
there are more things
Yeah.
you can do at once,
It
right?
comes with a cost, right?
Right. So, and I don't think simpler interface for the teacher and the students is what's coming with the next generation LMS. It's a trend right now. Like Canvas comes out and they say,
Right.
we're going to make it easy.
Canvas is a good example.
We're going to make it simple.
Right.
We're just going to strip away all this unnecessary stuff. If you read their like capital, venture capital like proposal, they describe the guy that came up with it as like a Paul Revere character writing through to different colleges saying,
Oh my goodness.
a new LMS is coming, a simpler LMS is coming.
Right.
And so, but the trade-off there is functionality, right? You can't do the things in Canvas that you can do in Moodle because it is simpler. And so yes, it's good in some ways, but we need to be able to tolerate and embrace complexity in higher ed. And
One would think.
right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Simplicity is the thing.
Yeah.
That's-
It's hard to explain that, because I have trouble saying what you said, because it's not simpler is better, but we don't want to be interfering with faculty teaching, and we don't want to be interfering with students learning. But like extra credit, most of Europe doesn't believe in extra credit, thinks we're crazy. Most of America thinks you have to give extra credit, because if someone messes up early on, there needs to be some potential for redemption if the person puts in the work. And so, so it's like, we all don't agree as educators what the right thing is. That's why we need.
Right.
Well,
Hey.
they're like Canvas is going to get a bunch of teachers, and they are requesting things that they could have already been doing in Moodle. Hey, can you put this in? Can you put that in? Can you add this? So they're going from this simplicity model to this
Oh, exactly.
increasingly complex model. You know?
They're going backwards.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I don't know if you've seen the recent news about Minnesota and Canvas coming in, and they are kind of fighting amongst each other as far as whether or not they're going to be a Moodle shop or a Canvas shop. So,
The entire state of Wyoming is. I talked with John Wood and Kim Brooks.
oh yeah,
The whole state, because of the way they do their educational funding, is trying to do a consortium for an LMS. And they're considering Canvas and Moodle.
Because when you set things out for bid, companies like Canvas and Blackboard have an advantage in those bidding type things.
well,
That's why they called me. They were like, we need a Moodle salesman. Will you come down and
Let them know that
exactly.
let them know that Randy and I could
Yeah,
help.
Mike-
got
Michael-
Michelle Moore into it.
Okay.
Michelle and Jonathan Moore, so
Oh, good.
Very good.
Yeah.
They would even be very good
Perfect.
choices. Yeah.
I couldn't make it down there that week, but I would have gone. I would have been on Paul Revere.
And, and when we saw that article for Minnesota, Michael reached out to Mark.
Mark, you met him at the
Oh, yeah.
at the Moodle Moot
Okay.
here. Mark McKay. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and then, yeah, got an interesting email back. I won't go into any detail, but.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, anyway, so it's one of those things where as we look ahead, what is this next generation LMS? What does it mean? Where do we want to go? What are our learners expecting from the LMS? And I think, I don't think any one of us have the answers here, but I think we look ahead and we figure out how all these other, again, back to the Internet of Things, how all these other physical elements integrate within our lives already integrate with our LMS, or is the LMS, as some suggest, it's going to disappear? And I'm not sure that's going to happen.
Well, and I think you also need to look at a lot of things our keynote speaker spoke about, because I saw his presentation at when it was at the U.S. Moodle, and it was equally touching the second time around to listen to those students. But I think another thing for open source LMS is the closed source ones can take your content and take it away anytime they want.
That's right. It's the price of
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting. The first couple years when we started using Moodle, people continued to talk about, oh, we're going to get Angel, we're going to go to Blackboard. Even after we did all the work and went through a year of evaluation and did our pilots and so on, there were still folks believing that all this other stuff was going to happen. It just had to happen.
And that someone was going to just buy Moodle and we were going to go on. Because people didn't get open source and open education. But it's true, but we don't hear that so much anymore. I mean, people.
We don't hear it at all now.
Yeah.
No. We do from some of our computer science folks. I could build a better LMS in one day. Exactly. So it's just entertaining when we hear comments like that.
I haven't had any serious people with that.
So anyways, that's my presentation. Questions?
I asked them all.
Okay.
So, I want to connect you guys with my server and
Definitely.
He had a meeting during this time. I told him to come to this thing. He also wants to talk to the Google videos.
Oh, yes, and let me say tomorrow at 1 is your Google video presentation.
Yeah. It has a nice fancy title to it.
Please attend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's empowering faculty, because I like that. Empowering
took
faculty by managing
We took
classroom videos.
a big jump this last year, which I think was the right thing to do. And
I love the way you guys are continually on the front edge of doing it yourselves and doing it cost effectively and in a way that really keeps the user in mind the whole time is the top priority. You know, the movement from AWS to AWS with Moodle last year, the Google Drive this year. Yeah, it was great work.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, cost shouldn't be the only driver, but it is a very important driver, because when you waste money, you're wasting students' money and state money.
Talking to projects, so have you been involved at all with the analytic project? The
Moodle?
yeah,
Analytics working group?
the Inspire.
Inspire.
Inspire?
I can't remember her name, but you've probably met her.
Elizabeth.
Dalton.
Dalton. Yep.
Oh, yeah, I met her. Yeah, she was on the program committee. And
So they're looking for institutions to come in and share data with them and be part of the project.
yeah, I'll do that.
We're meeting with our institutional research folks with her and discuss, what resources we need to have in place.
I'll forward the email. You may already have it, but I'll
'Cause,
forward it.
I mean, there are some things that we have to look internally to make sure we can support it.
I know, because exactly. So that's why I'll forward this one. This one might stand out more, but it's Project Inspire.
Name on it, I'll look at it.
Okay. Well, thank you. Golf clap.